Welcome to the next episode of the Promo Playbook by Cubic Promote. Today I've got a special guest with me. His name is Raymond Seeto, and Raymond Seeto has had and continues to have an incredible career. Currently, he's working as a director in Bendigo Bank, Haymarket, Sydney. Raymond, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Despite the very wet weather we're experiencing here in Sydney at the moment, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, Raymond, you've had an incredible you've had an incredible career. You continue to have an incredible career. I want to find out a bit about the person behind yourself. If you could share, and we could talk about stories of risk, resilience, and purpose, just to find out what it takes to have such an incredible career. That'll be amazing. So I've got a set of questions for you. So Are you ready?
Sure.
Brilliant. So I see that on your LinkedIn, it's incredible. I'm reading through finance director of Avon, finance director in a biscuit factory. Maybe let's start there. How did you come from background in Avon into a biscuit factory?
There are similarities in the business simply because in Avon, we're a fast-moving consumer item. And biscuit factories are similar because they're making millions of these things. And so, at the end of the day, the numbers are numbers. And so there are, you're looking at numbers and making sure that everything is fine in that respect. So, yeah.
You get to taste test the biscuits?
It was funny because when I was going through those career stages, I was living as an expatriate in China at the time, in Guangzhou. And I was part of the very early team going into China, where it was in the late 1980s. That was when Tiananmen Square had just happened in 89. Straight after that. So Tiananmen Square was June, and then I started going into China somewhere around October, November of that year. And that was really exciting times then because, of all of those, and I started going into China going on, a lot of the Western companies were looking to, are there opportunities to go in there? Of course, that incident scared a lot of companies.
It would have, yeah.
But with Avon being a large US company, they had certain plans that had implemented, and nothing was going to stop that implementation. But it did kind of like put wrinkles in it, and so people had to reassess what was going on. But ultimately, we moved forward on it, and we started a very small factory in Guangzhou, making enough items for our sales force to get onto, and it was such a radical business model for China at the time, and that we were looked upon as very much as pioneers, because at the time, most US companies or most foreign companies were looking to China as more manufacturing and the low cost of human labor. And so that was their primary aim. We looked at it differently, and together with other direct selling companies such as Amway, we introduced a new way of retailing, a new way of reaching out to consumers. So that was very exciting times in that period.
That was. So the type of biscuits, are these chocolate biscuits? Are they what types of biscuits?
Well, I had moved from Avon to a French company called Danone.
Oh, that's a yogurt company.
Yogurt company, absolutely. And they were one of the world's largest food groups. And they own a number of other brands that, people probably would know the brands, but wouldn't know, the owners behind it. And they were an expansion drive as well. And they had started a yogurt company in Guangzhou. They had purchased a small water company called Wahaha, which if you're from China, you probably know who that is. And that ultimately became a huge company. That's a totally different story. But coming back to biscuits, they also expanded into purchasing down and out biscuit companies or other food companies around China. And I was recruited to be the CFO there. And it was really to bring the Chinese systems to somewhat close to the 20th century, because they were back in the 50s. Everything was done by hand. So when I walked in there, my staff barely knew what a computer was at the PC. So I literally had to bring a PC out and say, turn on the PC and say, this is what it's all about. This is the spreadsheet. This is what you can do. And in fact, I took a very large sheet of paper and I had to explain to them what a spreadsheet, what it could do.
Yeah.
This is the cell. Yeah. You add this to get that particular result. But all credit to them, once they got onto it, it's like, boom.
So this is incredible because what you experienced a couple of decades ago, fast forward a couple of decades later, is literally the same conversation that we're having, but no longer PCs, but with AI.
Yeah.
So AI keeps leaps and bounds the amount of exponential. And I'm not talking about incremental, or maybe there's a new software, maybe an extra key on a keyboard that makes things a little bit quicker. But
I think you would say here is back in 30 years ago, when on the dawn of the PC age and the dawn of internet, AI is now at that same level.
It is at that
same stage.
It's true, yes.
Though at a much higher technological step and a much higher intellectual step. It's frightening.
We were just talking about this a second ago. This clip that we're recording right now, when it comes to editing, what would have taken an editor maybe a few hours to edit some ums and ahs out of this clip, I could do within under 3 seconds. It's exponential.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. So going through the rest of your career, you then had a 9 years at Mediforce Technology as a director.
Yeah, and that was, Mediforce was set up to try and target the Chinese market for medical devices. And we got into devices that looked at brain cancer as well as liver cancer.
Scanning devices.
No, not scanning devices. These are actually devices where we used radiofrequency to ablate tumors within the brain, and also to cure different types of conditions, such as neuralgia, and it's something to do with the face, brain cancers, brain tumors, liver tumors, cutting edge stuff.
Even today, and back in the day, even more so.
And now, of course, with AI and medical technology just going in leaps and bounds, they're fine-tuning it, and even, things are even, better these days. So, yeah.
Corporate Director, AFT Corporation, Accredited Greens Loans Assessor, Federal Government, Sydney, Partner, Lambda Chase.
Lambda Chase.
Corporate Director, Microculius Medical Limited. This is incredible. I could go on. And a few other ones, culminating in where you're currently at, which is at Zyken Tax.
Yeah.
As well as Bendigo Bank.
Yeah, Zyken is my own thing. I specialize in helping companies who are doing research and development, and I help them do their research and development claims from the ATO. It's a really exciting area because I get to talk to people who are at the top of their game and looking at developing products to get into the market. For example, I have a client that uses AI and develops software for a range of different things for their own clients, such as doing game and doing a range of other things. And as well, I've got clients doing development for travel, really, really good stuff, as well as clients who do very, I would say, 20th century stuff like manufacturing.
Manufacturing is not dead.
It's not dead. It's still alive, but it's,
needs a bit of help, clearly.
So yeah, I love talking with, those people who have, ideas in which to improve their products and to come up with new products.
And Bendigo Bank, your role there, if you could share with us, how did you get involved? Okay. And what are the aspirations for the Bendigo Bank brand?
Well, I've been a director of our community bank at Darling Square for nearly coming up to 10 years, slightly less than 10 years, about 8-9 years.
So Darling Square, for the audience out there, is in Sydney, New South Wales. It's in the heart of Haymarket, in the middle of Sydney CBD.
Yes. And we're a franchise of Bendigo Bank. So shareholders own the branch, but we use the Bendigo Bank platform to provide banking to our customers. And what the beauty of it is, as I mentioned the word community bank, is that the community bank concept is actually that people within the area come together and create this service provider called the community bank, where it provides banking services, but the profits that's generated from that is then, to a greater or lesser extent, sent back into the communities to support community projects. We help local land care, we help Men's Shed, we help within our area the museum, the Maritime Museum. We help charities like Impact 100 Sydney. I could go on. We help, the Children's Tumor Foundation. So we're a very large supporter of that particular charity. So yeah, I could go on. So our profits go back into the community. So
the Bendigo Bank, so we call it the community bank. And so the identity really matters.
Oh, yes. Community banks are very specific to Bendigo Bank. So when you go into Bendigo Bank branch, If it says the word community bank, then it means that they are community owned. If you don't see the word, then it's a corporate owned and run branch.
So that's how the words symbolize and
Symbolizes the meaning, yes.
incredible. So trust is fragile in banking because it's so easy and there's so much competition in banking for connections, for clientele. How do you keep the human connection alive in a industry that is frankly quite cold and transactional?
Yes, it is. And we can see that in the industry today in terms of the way the big four are closing branches. Community Bank and Bendigo Bank look at it differently. We have a very human touch associated with our brand. I think you'll see the latest brand trust surveys in that Bendigo Bank is right up top 1 or 2 most trusted brands in Australia. It reflects the way that the bank sees people and the way the bank wants to conduct and communicate with people. And so that, I like to call it banking for everyone, where if you come in, you will get someone, a human being talking to you. If you have more complex issues to sort out, we will sit you down, we'll make you a cup of coffee, and we'll make sure that you are looked after in the best possible sense.
It's an experience. I think it's very possibly more common in Asian countries. My sister, for example, she's a teacher in Hong Kong. And when she goes to banking, she gets the private bank treatment that normally is reserved for the more wealthier people in Sydney. And so it's interesting that the community bank would give that experience to everyday Australians as well.
Well, that's what our point of difference is, especially at Darling Square. We have
It doesn't look like a bank.
Well,
I've been there. It doesn't look like a bank. There's no counters. There's no barriers or borders.
Yes.
You walk in and it's immediately just a conversation.
Yes.
It's not about business or bank. It's literally stepping into a conversation, and it's set up that way as well.
Yes, and we designed it that way so that we wanted the feel of, so when someone walks in, that there's a sense of trust in there, the sense of comfort. So we looked at emulating a 5-star hotel, is what I would call it, but obviously with a institutional touch to it.
And I must add a lot of small little details, such as branded uniforms, branded pens, branded notebooks that are just littered throughout, just to remind the customers as casual and as powerful of a conversation.
We want to be subtle.
This is a professionally, subtly well-run organization that's going to look after people's financial assets.
Yes. And having Cubic Promote as our merchandise provider certainly adds to that aura.
Thank you. If you were to sum up Bendigo Bank's story in the next 10 years into a single sentence, how would you summarize that? Is it business as usual? Or do you see something big changing in the horizon, the way people interact?
In terms of our own community bank, we're very, very ambitious. We want to bring the same experience that people experience within our Darling Square branch to as many branches as possible. So we would certainly look to expand and look to drive our business further.
Let's change the tactic away from your career in the banking, a bit more about Raymond, the person. If you were to be stuck in an elevator with any 3 people, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Oh, who could I choose? I'm thinking of, some of my heroes. I'd probably choose a politician and a musician.
A politician? That's controversial. Well, it's got to be a bloody good one.
Well, I'm, being of the age I am, I'm thinking of JFK, but maybe not. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, most people would go for a Mandela type conversation.
That'll be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was, stuck in prison for so long, 20 plus years, I think, and then be able to walk out and still show the humanity that he has.
He has some dignity.
Dignity was just, how does that happen? So probably he would be one person I'd love to, just be in an elevator with, the seconds it takes to go up an elevator. Hope it takes longer. Who else would I love to? I think he's someone that has leadership, and he led from a position of dignity and a position of where he didn't play the politics so much. And that's what I loved about that. So yeah, because I'm a baby boomer, I tend to like singer-songwriters. I don't know. I can list off, any number of singer-songwriters. James Taylor is probably one of my ultimate musical heroes. Third person, probably someone sporting, I think. Maybe, and you know what? He's modern. Tadej Pogacar, who's a cyclist, and he won the last couple of editions of Tour de France. And in fact, I did meet him back in 2022. Young chap at the time, spoken, but obviously
Not a discipline, not a grit, clearly. Winning Tour de France a couple of times.
Well, he's now won a 4-time, but what I like about him is that when he was young, he was very, very aggressive. He just thought about going. He was, he didn't think about the consequences. Now he's more strategic. He thinks about things now. And he doesn't do anything that is not going to not come out without something positive. So yeah, so that would be probably my choices in an elevator.
Very well considered choices. They're very strategic conversations that we have had between the individuals as well. What's one of the most useless talent that you secretly?
I'm full of useless bits of information. There's a detritus, and I'll tell people something, and they'll really okay. Let's move on.
Love it. Final question, looking back at your career, and I mean that almost as if you're done, but clearly you're not done, clearly. But if you were to give yourself, younger self, an advice when you were just started out, what would it be?
I think one of my strengths and weakness, if I could call it that, is that when I get into any particular situation, work or otherwise, I give it 100%. And that is strength and weakness, okay? Because what I don't do is think about myself and that possibility of burnout, number one, and then possibly of what my own future can look like. Because I tend to look up. I'm trying to give the best for whoever I'm doing work with or for. I don't try and look after myself. So that's probably, what I would say to myself. Step back and think more strategically for yourself. Yes. Think the long term and really, and I would give this advice for any young person now. Whoever you work for will only look after themselves. You need to look after yourself as well.
Great advice. Well, Raymond, thank you so much for your time. It's been a brilliant conversation.
Thank you, Charles.
Good career, and continue to do so.
No, thank you. I've enjoyed my career and hope to keep on contributing to Bendigo Bank and keep on contributing to friendships like yourself.
Likewise.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for listening in on the latest episode of the Promo Playbook. Please stay tuned for the next and future episodes.